This is Mr. Eugene, and today we're talking about something men desperately need but rarely get: practical tests to filter quality women from manipulative ones before you waste years discovering the truth the hard way. I've been getting messages from men of all ages making catastrophic choices with women. Not because they're stupid, but because they don't know how to test for character, for genuine interest, for whether she's actually into them or just into what they provide. So today I'm giving you 3 tests you can implement immediately that will reveal more about a woman's character in 5 minutes than 6 months of dating will show you otherwise. And before we get into this, let me tell you why this matters more than you think. Because I've counseled men who ignored red flags, who overrode their gut instincts, who continued relationships with women who failed every test because they were thinking with the wrong head, and the cost was devastating. Years wasted, resources extracted, psychological damage, all preventable if they just tested early and acted on the results. So if you're thinking, testing women seems manipulative, you're confused about what manipulation actually is, women test men constantly: fitness tests, compliance tests, boundary tests. They're evaluating whether you're actually the man you present as or just performing. You deserve the same information about her. This isn't manipulation, this is due diligence. Stay with me. The lost test, the door lock test. Before we get into the 3 modern tests, let me explain the test we can't use anymore, but that illustrates the principle perfectly. There's a scene from an old movie, Bronx Tale, where they discuss the door lock test. Back before key fobs, you'd unlock the passenger door with a key, let your date in, then walk around to the driver's side. The test: does she reach over and unlock your door while you're walking around? If she does, she's considerate, she's thinking about you. She's reciprocating the small courtesy you just provided. If she doesn't, she's selfish. She'll take what you offer without thinking about returning the favor. The character in the movie says it plainly: if she doesn't unlock your door, dump her. She's a selfish broad. I actually used this test before key fobs made it obsolete. It worked remarkably well. The women who reached over and unlocked the door, generally quality partners who thought about reciprocation. The women who sat there waiting, generally selfish, entitled, takers who expected service without providing it. We can't use that specific test anymore. But the principle remains. Small tests early reveal character that takes months to expose through normal dating. So here are 3 modern versions. Test 1, the coffee test. First test, the coffee test. This reveals whether she views you as a resource to extract from or a partner to invest in. Here's how it works. You're out with her, heading somewhere, doesn't matter where. Pause and say, you know what? I'd love to grab coffee from Starbucks. I forgot my wallet. Can you cover this one? Now watch what happens. This is revealing multiple dimensions simultaneously. A quality woman will immediately say yes without hesitation. She'll pull out her wallet, pay for both coffees, and not mention it again. She recognizes that you've probably paid for dates, dinners, activities. Covering a $5 coffee is nothing. She's happy to reciprocate in this small way. A low-quality woman will react negatively. She'll hesitate, make excuses, express discomfort, maybe offer to just pay for her own coffee but not yours. Or she'll pay but bring it up later, make comments about how she had to buy your coffee, turn it into a favor you owe her. What's this revealing? Whether she sees the relationship as reciprocal or extractive. Whether she's comfortable investing in you or only comfortable receiving from you. Whether small gestures of generosity are normal to her or whether every exchange is calculated transaction. I have a friend who used this test on his ex-wife before they married. She failed spectacularly. Acted like he was asking her to fund his mortgage. Made a huge deal about buying coffee. He ignored the warning sign, married her anyway. And he still says to this day, if I'd just walked away when she failed that test, I'd have saved myself a decade of misery and a catastrophic divorce. The test works because it's small enough that refusal is clearly unreasonable, but significant enough that her reaction reveals her character. A generous woman passes easily. A selfish woman fails, obviously. Important, you're not actually testing whether she'll buy you coffee. You're testing her reaction to a small request for reciprocation. The coffee is irrelevant. Her attitude toward reciprocation is everything. Test 2, the no test. Second test, the no test. This reveals whether she respects your boundaries or whether she'll spend the relationship manipulating and shaming you into compliance. Here's how it works. She suggests doing something you're genuinely not interested in. Art gallery, romantic comedy, dinner with her friends you don't like, whatever. Something that's clearly for her, not for you. You say no. Not meanly, not rudely, just, that's not really my thing, not interested. You should go with your friends though. Now watch what happens. This reveals whether she respects your autonomy or whether she'll use manipulation to override it. A quality woman accepts your no. She might be disappointed, but she respects that you have preferences and boundaries. She goes without you or suggests an alternative you'd both enjoy. She doesn't make your disinterest about her. She doesn't take it personally. She just accepts that you're 2 different people with different interests, and that's normal. A low-quality woman reacts with anger or shaming. If you were a real man, you'd come with me. If you actually cared about me, you'd do this. You're being selfish. You never want to do what I want to do. She deploys guilt, shame, manipulation, anything to override your no and force compliance. What's this revealing? Whether she respects your autonomy as an equal, or whether she views you as a resource she can manipulate into serving her preferences. Whether she's capable of accepting that your time and interests matter, or whether everything must serve her agenda. Here's an example from my own experience. I was dating a woman who invited me to a dinner party with people I'd met before and found draining, energy vampires, negative, bitter, judgmental people who would lower my average. You are the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. These people would drag that average down, so I said no. Explained it clearly. I've met them before. They're not people I want to spend time with. You should go. I'll do something else. She lost her mind. Started with, you shouldn't judge people. Escalated to, if you cared about me, you'd come. Deployed every shaming tactic available to try to force compliance, and I should have ended it right there because there were already red flags. But I ignored them, and the relationship eventually imploded exactly as that failed test predicted it would. The no test works because women who respect boundaries accept no gracefully. Women who don't respect boundaries respond to no with manipulation designed to override it. And if she can't accept no during dating, imagine what living with her looks like. Every boundary becomes a battlefield. Every preference becomes a negotiation where she deploys manipulation until you surrender. So test early. Say no to something reasonable to decline. See if she respects your autonomy or tries to manipulate you into compliance. Act on the results. Test 3, the prenup test. Third test, the prenup test. This reveals whether she's into you or into what you can provide for her. Here's how it works. You're not directly asking her to sign a prenup. That's too confrontational, too early. You're bringing up the concept casually in conversation to gauge her reaction. Mention that a friend of yours recently had a conversation about a prenup or cohabitation agreement with their partner. Could be a male friend, could be a female friend, doesn't matter. Just mention it came up. Then ask, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think about prenups? Now watch her reaction. This reveals whether she sees relationships as partnerships of equals or as opportunities to access male resources. A quality woman will be reasonable. She might say prenups make sense for people with significant assets or children from previous relationships. She might express some discomfort but acknowledge the practical reasons. She might even say she'd sign one if it made her partner feel secure. She recognizes that protecting assets isn't about lack of trust, it's about practical risk management. A low-quality woman will react with outrage. If you loved me, you'd trust me. Planning for divorce means you're expecting divorce. That's so insulting. I would never sign that. She frames the prenup as betrayal rather than prudence. She expresses offense at the mere suggestion that she might not be entitled to half your assets, regardless of what she contributed. What's this revealing? Whether she views marriage as partnership, where both parties contribute and both parties protect what they built independently, or whether she views marriage as vehicle for accessing male resources she didn't earn. All women are somewhat hypergamous. They want to date up, to secure men who are better positioned than they are. That's biology. But quality women bring something to the table beyond their presence. They contribute. They build with you. They recognize that accessing your resources requires contributing equivalent value. Low-quality women bring nothing but entitlement. They expect access to what you built without contributing to it. And they express outrage when you suggest protecting what's yours. Because they view male resources as communal property, they're entitled to the moment they enter relationship. I actually had this conversation with a woman I dated for 6 or 7 months. She brought it up. Said her friend was presented with a cohabitation agreement because the friend was pushing to move in with a guy who was financially successful with a child from a previous marriage. I said, that's pretty standard now. If you're divorced with a child, you want to make sure your wealth transfers to your child, not to someone else's children if things don't work out. She got exceptionally upset, started arguing that if he really loved her friend, he'd trust her, that protecting assets means expecting failure, that it's insulting to suggest she'd take what wasn't hers. All the standard objections that reveal entitlement thinking. And I should have ended it right there. But I was thinking with the wrong head. I continued dating her, and eventually it imploded exactly as that failed test predicted. The prenup test works because it's theoretical. You're not actually asking her to sign anything. You're just discussing the concept. And her reaction to the concept reveals whether she views relationships as partnership or resource extraction, whether she's reasonable about protecting assets or entitled to accessing yours, why these tests matter. Now let's talk about why these 3 tests matter more than months of normal dating. Because women perform during courtship, they present their best selves. They suppress the negative traits. They behave like the woman they think you want rather than the woman they actually are. And most men don't see the real person until after commitment, after marriage, after she's secured access to resources and no longer needs to perform. These tests bypass the performance. They reveal character under pressure. They show you how she responds when asked to reciprocate, when told no, when her access to resources is questioned. And those responses predict future behavior far more accurately than months of her being on best behavior. Think about it logically. If she can't reciprocate buying coffee during dating, imagine how she treats reciprocation in marriage. If she can't accept no during courtship, imagine how she handles boundaries when living together. If she's outraged by prenup discussion before engagement, imagine how she approaches finances in marriage. Early tests predict future patterns. That's why they're valuable. That's why ignoring failed tests is catastrophic. The pattern of ignoring red flags. And here's what I've observed watching men ignore these red flags. They always regret it. Always. Not sometimes. Always. They'll tell me, I knew something was wrong. I saw the red flags. I just thought maybe I was being too critical. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe she'd be different with me. She wasn't different. The red flags they ignored early became the behaviors that destroyed the relationship later, every single time. Why do men ignore failed tests? Several reasons. 1, scarcity mentality. They think they won't find someone better, so they accept someone inadequate. 2, physical attraction overrides judgment. She's attractive enough that they override logical concerns. 3, hope that she'll change. They believe that time or love or commitment will transform her into who they wish she was. None of these reasons justify ignoring failed tests, because scarcity is illusion, physical attraction fades, and people don't fundamentally change just because you commit harder. So when she fails a test, act on it. Don't rationalize, don't hope, don't give her another chance to prove herself. Just end it. Because the test revealed who she actually is, and who she actually is will destroy you if you let her. How to implement these tests? Let me give you practical implementation advice, because understanding the tests intellectually doesn't help if you don't actually use them. Implement these tests early, first month of dating, before you're emotionally invested, before you've built hope around this person, before breaking it off feels costly. Early testing when walking away is easy, saves you from late discovery when walking away is expensive. Implement all 3 tests. Don't just use one, use all 3, because she might pass one and fail others. And you need comprehensive data about her character. 1 test might be fluke, 3 tests reveal pattern. Implement them naturally. Don't announce I'm testing you. Don't make it obvious. Just create situations where these scenarios arise organically. Mention you forgot your wallet. Decline something she suggests. Bring up prenups in casual conversation. Make it natural so her response is genuine. And most importantly, act on the results. If she fails, end it. Don't give chances. Don't explain the test hoping she'll learn and do better. Just end it. Because if she's a quality woman, she passes naturally without knowing she's being tested. If she fails, she's not quality, and no amount of explaining will make her quality. What quality women look like. Let me describe what actually passing these tests looks like so you know what you're looking for. Quality woman, coffee test, of course. Let me grab this one. Pays happily. Doesn't mention it again. Doesn't keep score. Recognizes reciprocation as normal in healthy relationships. Quality woman. No test. Okay, no problem. I'll go with Sarah. Have a good time doing whatever you're doing. Accepts your boundary without taking it personally. Doesn't try to manipulate or shame you into changing your answer. Quality woman, prenup test. I think they make sense for people with assets or kids from previous relationships. I'd be comfortable signing one if it made my partner feel secure. It's just paperwork protecting what each person built before the relationship. That's what quality looks like. Reciprocation without hesitation, boundaries without manipulation, reasonable attitudes toward asset protection. That's the woman you're looking for. Not perfect, just reasonable. Final thoughts. Let me tell you why I compiled these 3 tests into this video, why I'm sharing what I've learned from watching. Men ignore red flags and pay catastrophically for it later. Because testing feels uncomfortable to men who've been programmed to be nice, to give chances, to hope for the best, to believe that love conquers all. And that programming gets men destroyed. Because love doesn't conquer character flaws. Love doesn't transform selfish women into generous partners. Love doesn't make manipulative women respect boundaries. Testing early identifies problems before they cost you years and resources. Testing reveals character that dating conceals. Testing protects you from catastrophic mistakes. And women do this to men constantly. Fitness tests, compliance tests, boundary tests. They're always evaluating whether you're actually strong or just performing strength. Whether you'll maintain frame under pressure or fold immediately, whether you're high value or just pretending. You deserve the same information about her. You deserve to know if she's actually quality or just performing quality during courtship. You deserve data that informs your decision about whether this person deserves your commitment. So test early, test deliberately, test all three areas, and act on the results without hesitation. Because your future self will thank you for the relationships you avoided, far more than for the relationships you pursued. This channel exists because I got tired of watching men ignore red flags and discover years later that those red flags predicted exactly how the relationship would implode. I got tired of men operating from hope instead of data. I got tired of men sacrificing themselves for women who failed every test but looked good enough that men overrode judgment. So if this resonated, if these three tests make sense, implement them immediately. In your current relationship if you're dating, in your next relationship if you're single, don't wait. Don't hope you won't need them. Just test and act on results. Drop a comment about your experiences. Have you used tests like these? What did they reveal? Share what you've learned so other men benefit from your observations. Subscribe for more practical advice about protecting yourself in modern relationships. Because this channel will never tell you to give chances to women who fail basic character tests. We'll never suggest that hope or love or commitment transforms low-quality women into high-quality partners. We'll never frame male testing as manipulation while ignoring that women test constantly. You deserve data. These three tests provide it. Use them, act on the results. Protect yourself, brothers.